sports are really important vehicles for relationships.
We have purpose. We have a why. We bring people together. We connect.
I feel like God is our greatest supporter and our greatest coach.
Welcome to Rabbi on the Sidelines. This is Rabbi Erez Sherman from Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, where we speak about the intersection of sports and faith. This episode, we are joined by Ohad Poraz from Brothers for Life, a nonprofit created and run by injured Israeli combat veterans who give critical and immediate help to other injured Israeli combat veterans, for those who sacrifice their lives for the safety of the Jewish people. You might be wondering why Ohad Perez and Brothers for Life is featured on a sports and faith podcast. Well, we're going to let Ohad answer that. Ohad is joining us live from Israel. Ohad, it's so wonderful to meet you officially. Thank you for joining us on Rabbi on the Sidelines.
Thank you for having me.
So let's first begin about the organization, and then we'll keep our audience in suspense about how we actually get to the sports, which will be in Los Angeles next week, November 17th. First, want to give a shout out to Brad Conroy, who connected us for Brothers for Life, an organization that has come to Los Angeles very often. So let's just start about the mission, created by injured Israeli veterans. When was this created and why?
Brothers for Life started basically after the Second Lebanon War. Back in 2006, injured combat soldiers came to Rambam Hospital in Haifa to visit, their friends, their teammates, their brothers in arms, and then they started visiting other injured soldiers, and they felt this immediate connection between other injured soldiers. Doesn't matter what unit they served in or what age they were, what rank they had on their shoulders, and so they understood that something very special is happening. That common ground of injured combat soldiers. And, what started as a group of 5 to 10 people just grew from mouth to ear over the years. And, today, almost 2 decades later, we're reaching almost, sadly to say, 2,000 injured combat soldiers here at Brothers for Life. All the employees here, the entire staff, the management, all the volunteers, every single one of us here is an injured combat soldier.
And so I read just a little of your bio on the actual website and your story, if you are comfortable to share that story of how you became part of this fraternity, if you wish, so that you can help others.
Well, 2005, February 3rd to be exact, I was in a patrol south of Hebron. We were 4 soldiers in a light Jeep, and we were patrolling the area that has Israeli and Arab villages live very close by, and we're there to keep the peace. And on a Thursday night, just like today, not a war, not any military operation. This is a regular Thursday, any given day of the week here in Israel. We were ambushed by 3 terrorists. At the time, we didn't know there were 3. We were sitting in the car when we heard gunshots, and then we started hearing the bullets actually entering the vehicle. That's when I felt a sharp pain in my stomach. That's when you realize that those shots are aimed towards you. Adrenaline kicks in like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. And then you just work on instinct. We jumped out of the vehicle because it was very dark that night. We could see the flashes come from their muzzles of their rifles. And we just started shooting. Me and Tomer, my teammate, we just started shooting everything we had towards those flashes. And the moment it became quiet, we lifted our heads to see where our driver and our commander are. So our commander was severely injured. He was laying on the ground in a puddle of blood. The driver on the other side of the vehicle was shell-shocked. He was just on the ground, covering his head, screaming. And we ran towards our commander. We pulled him back so the Jeep would provide some cover between him and the terrorist. I had a tourniquet in my pocket, but then I realized that he was hit in the main artery in his shoulder. You can't put a tourniquet there. So what I did was I stuck my knuckle in his wound in order to stop the bleeding as best as I could. He was unconscious. He was not responding. Tomer, in the meantime, continued on shooting. And then when we had a moment of quiet, we jumped into the car to try to call for help on the radio. But the radio, like everything else, was destroyed from the shooting, along with the engine, the tires, the windows, everything was completely destroyed. So we started taking out our cell phones, but this is back in 2005. Cell phones weren't great back then. We had no signal, no way to call for help. And then, like in a scene from the movies, we see a civilian vehicle driving towards us from an Arab village that was right next to us. And we took control over that car. We took the male Arab driver from the front seat, put him in the back seat. All four of us got into the car and we started driving away in his car. And after a few minutes, we saw, the cavalry driving towards us. And I'm thinking to myself, they're going to shoot us, right? This is a civilian vehicle, an Arab vehicle, driving like crazy from where an ambush just took place. So with whatever was left of my energy, my whole upper body was outside the window waving towards them. So they would recognize us and not shoot. And one of many miracles that night is that they recognized us. They stopped. They put me and my commander, Yuri, into an ambulance and rushed us to Soroka Hospital.
And so that was 2005, which obviously is before the creation of Brothers for Life. So what did your recovery look like without injured soldiers visiting you? And what were you missing at that time that you now provide others who are in that same position?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, when I was injured, there was no Brothers for Life. There weren't any injured combat soldiers who came to visit me at the hospital. There were my parents, my brother, my friends, my teammates. They were all there, but no one really had the words to resonate that you find comfort in them. Because at that moment in time where I can't even go to the bathroom alone. I can't shower myself. I need help from my parents, from my girlfriend, and you feel so much shame. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at my wounds. I was injured by 2 bullets in my stomach, and one came out of the chest. The other one is still inside until today. And so the whole torso was opened up, and it was all black because the flesh was burnt. And I'm looking at the mirror, and I'm thinking I'm disgusting. I don't know if my girlfriend's going to stay with me. I don't know if I'm ever going to get married, if I will ever have a family. And at that point in time, there was no BFL. So I couldn't speak with other injured soldiers who went through what I'm going through right now. So there was no comfort at that point in time. I was struggling to go back to service. Luckily, with a lot of help from the big chief of the Air Force, I was back into my unit for another 2.5 years as a commander.
Unbelievable.
But it's only after the service that I started experiencing these anxiety attacks and flashbacks and nightmares. And all of a sudden I was afraid of the dark and public spaces, but I had no idea what I'm going through because PTSD wasn't talked about back then. And it's not like today where PTSD is all over the place and the awareness is through the roof. There was no one to talk to about that. And I joined Brothers for Life only in 2013. I was 8 years into my injury until I heard about Brothers for Life.
And so how did you hear about them, and what was that comfort that you received from them that led you to now be a professional for Brothers for Life?
Well, it's a funny story. I won't go too long about it, but I'll say that I was married at the time when I heard about Brothers for Life. This is my first wife. She was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and we drove up north to a hotel to get a break from everyone. And I went to get a massage, and you need to sign this form that you're medically cleared to get a massage. So I wrote down that I was injured in the army and I went through a surgery. And the masseuse, he looked at the form and he says, "Oh, I see that you're an injured soldier. Are you part of Brothers for Life?"
Wow.
You know what? I've never heard about Brothers for Life, but listen, I'm in a bad spot here. I just want to relax. So he said, "Okay, that's fine." And we didn't speak about it, not another word. And it's only a year after my wife unfortunately passed away, and I was at the lowest point of my life. I wasn't working, I wasn't studying. We sit together for 7 days. We sit Shiva together, but then. Everyone has to go back to their lives. school, work, kids, but I didn't have much of a life to go to. And I looked online about Brothers for Life, and
Wow.
that's how I heard about the place, and that's how I came in. Now, when I first got into Brothers for Life, like a lot of other soldiers here, you come very skeptic. You think, oh, this is going to be a place, disabled, handicapped soldiers just sitting together, feeling sorry for themselves, giving each other legitimacy not to do anything with their lives. And then you walk in and you see that this is, a pack of lions. And they're talking about their injuries like you would talk about the Dodgers game. They're all with their black humor and no one's feeling sorry for each other. It just felt like the place to be. The energy was good. No one's feeling sorry for you. No one's judging you. You don't have to speak about anything you don't want to, but you see in the eyes of the people who sit in front of you that they know exactly what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most astonishing things for me is that you're sitting in front of the entire population of Israel. In Brothers for Life, you'll see Sephardic, you'll see Ashkenaz, you'll see religious, Orthodox, secular, guys from the city, guys from the kibbutz, Bedouins and Druze and Russians and Ethiopians, and we're all sitting around the same table. Different units, different ranks, different ages, and that common ground of being a soldier, but not just a soldier, one who was injured in a combat situation. It just beats everything. The rest it just doesn't matter.
When I asked you where you were, you said you're at the Brothers House. Tell me what the Brothers House is and what that's all about.
So this house was donated to us by Frankie and Stephen Cohen. They're originally from South Africa. Now they're in LA, and I hope I get to see them once we get there. But this house is only because of them that we finally have a home that we can call it, our own. Before we used to rent a few places, none of them stuck, but this is actually our house. And the guys and the ladies, this is important to say, this is female soldiers and male soldiers as well. And this house is open 5 days a week from morning till evening. You can come whenever you want, swim in the pool, sit in the hot tub, exercise, have a warm meal for lunch, play the PlayStation, play the guitar, just do whatever you want. You don't need to set an appointment. You don't need to tell anyone in advance that you're coming. You just show up. Whenever you feel like you need a breath of fresh air, you just show up. And the amount of activities that are here, they started over the years. And it's important to say that all the projects here are led by the injured soldiers. Mm-hmm. So any one of the guys here can come up with an idea. They want to paddle, they want tennis, they want basketball, they want soccer, they want yoga, they want CrossFit or Pilates, doesn't matter. You come up with an idea. If there are enough people who are interested in it, then we'll start the project. And everything here is free of charge. You can join as many events and activities as you like.
So let's talk about one of those projects, which is basketball, and that's how you ended up here on Rabbi on the Sidelines, Sports and Faith. Next Sunday, November 17th, you're going to be in Los Angeles doing a basketball tournament. What does that look like? You said, guys looking to play basketball. How do you get here?
So before I go into basketball, I'll talk about the sports here in general. This has become a religion here in Brothers for Life. There are over 40 sports projects here that are running on a weekly basis, not just here at the Brothers House, but all across the country, that you can do pretty much any sport that you like to do. And you do it with other injured soldiers. And that, I think, is the most important thing, because a lot of us, including myself, I would not play basketball if it wasn't for Brothers for Life. I would not play tennis if it wasn't for Brothers for Life. Because outside of this place, me and many others, we are ashamed of our physical disabilities or our emotional disabilities, where sometimes you just snap for no good reason. And here it's a safe place. And when you lose your path a little bit, it's understood. And we hug each other in those specific moments. I think a lot of us, if it wasn't for the programs here, we wouldn't exercise. Outside of this place, we wouldn't play basketball or anything else. And the basketball project started a couple years ago by one of the members, of course, like all the other projects. And just this week we started playing in a professional league.
Oh, wow.
Not far from here. We had our first game. We lost by 3 points in overtime. There was a lot of excitement. You could see that the hands were shaking a little bit. It's been many, many years for all the guys since we played, in a legitimate league. So you can see that the nerves were high that day, but I think we're going to get the hang of it over time. And so when Brad came up with the idea, Brad Conner, when he came up with the idea of doing a basketball game in the community in LA, it just felt so natural to us because we are living and breathing sports here in Brothers for Life. Just next week, we're having our annual Iron Brother down south in the desert. So it's basically like the Ironman competition. Yeah. And there's road cycling and off-road cycling. There's swimming, there's running, and you can do as much as you feel like. You do whatever you want to. We're prepared. We're preparing for it all year long. You can take on whatever it is you want. And then 150, 200 of us, we're going together for 2 days in the desert.
Wow.
This is what we call the Iron Brother. And so coming to LA to play basketball with the community, it just comes out so natural to us because we are so connected to the Jewish communities, not just in LA, but all over the world. We have delegations coming into the Jewish communities and we stay there for 8 to 10 days, 2 soldiers in a hosting family. And the connection that starts, you would be amazed the relationship that forms in such a short time. The family that hosted me in my first delegation back in Long Island in 2014, they are family as much as family goes. I've been there many times since then. They came to Israel. They met my parents. They met my current wife and our 4 children.
Wow.
And just after LA, actually, I'm going to meet them in New York. My wife is going to join me so we can just take a breather from, I don't need to tell you what goes on here in Israel right now.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Go from the basketball to back what happened over this past year of October 7th, that this time when so many soldiers are injured, we read about the casualties, but we often don't read about the injured, the small injured, the severely injured, and now they have Achim L'Chaim, the Brothers for Life. What did that look like over this past year? Was it just business as usual, or were there just an overload of injured combat soldiers that you had to expand?
The last year has been anything but business as usual. Nationwide, and I think for Jews all over the world, this year has been anything but. Mm-hmm. This in the first few months, it's been total chaos in the entire country and in Brothers for Life. We take in 200 soldiers every week.
Wow.
This is before October 7th.
Uh-huh.
So give or take 100 injured soldiers join us every year. And this is in quiet times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And since October 7th, we took in almost 800 injured soldiers, and there are 1,000 more that already, we visit them at the hospitals. They know about Brothers for Life. They're just waiting for the date to come here. And we're just doing everything we can to raise funds, and all our funds are from the diaspora. Brothers for Life exists only because of you and your community and other communities around the world. We don't get a single shekel from the Israeli government. This is all thanks to the diaspora, to Jewish people all over the world, that this place exists. And we are looking to hire staff on a daily basis, and keep in mind all the staff here is injured soldiers as well, like I mentioned before. And every day you see more and more new faces here. Literally every day you'll see new injured soldiers come in here into this house, and it just breaks your heart. They look so young, but what they've been through just makes them 10, 15 years older in amount of weeks. And when I was injured, I didn't have the privilege of having injured soldiers coming to my hospital bed. But now, in this day and age, we have visiting teams all over the country. In every single hospital in Israel, we have visiting teams. And we make sure to send guys who are dealing with the same injury.
Nice.
And that is huge for an 18, 19-year-old combat soldier that just lost his leg or maybe even both of his legs and is laying down in a hospital room thinking his life is over. And even if his family is there and his friends are there, they are shocked as much as he is, as much as she is. And you need to just see the face of that soldier when two guys walk into the room with the Brothers for Life shirt, the prosthetic legs, or the wheelchair with a huge smile on their face. And it could be the same hospital room where they were hospitalized 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And they would look in their eyes and say, we know, because we've been there. Look at our legs, look at our arms, look at my battle scars. We've been exactly where you are right now. And trust us when we tell you there is light at the end of this very, very dark tunnel that you are in right now. Where you are now, there is no hope. You can't see it. It's just so far from you. Imagine that just 24 hours earlier, you were a combat soldier, a commander, an officer. You had soldiers under your responsibility, taking soldiers into battle. And then 24 hours later, you can't even go to the bathroom. Your mom is bathing you like an infant. And it just kills you. It just kills you. You know how many times we heard, I wish I died in the battlefield. I wish it was just over there and then, because this is just awful. And I'm not even talking about the friends that you lost, the friends that are injured. I'm just talking about you. This is what hell looks like.
And so
then those guys come in the room, and then you see that light in their eyes, and you say, I was there, and now I'm married, and I'm a father, and I finished college, and I have a job, and you're going to be there one day as well. And a couple of years later, they circle back, and they start visiting injured soldiers in the hospital, because this whole concept of this place, and you can see it on the wall behind me, Lochamim Leman Lochamim. It's injured combat soldiers for injured combat soldiers. There are no psychologists here. There are no psychiatrists. There are no social workers. This is all about us helping each other. One day, I'll be your psychologist. Tomorrow, you'll be mine.
And the people that are coming to LA, the injured soldiers, first time, second time, if they are their first time, what are their expectations, and what do you hope that they get out of this?
The expectations are very high.
Wow.
First and foremost, just to get out of here. Before even the community, the families, the itinerary that is mind blowing. Just to get out of Israel for a while, because this last year is just a ongoing nightmare. We just don't see the end of it. Every day there are more and more injured soldiers. And a lot of people read about the soldiers who were killed in action. You open the news and you see 2 soldiers killed in action, 5 soldiers killed in action, 10 soldiers killed in action. But then underneath that title, there are dozens of soldiers who were injured, that their lives has changed dramatically in the course of a few minutes. And it impacts not just them, it impacts their families and their friends and their neighbors and their community. And so what started here is just helping the injured soldiers. Today we have projects that also helps the spouse and helps the kids and helps the parents and just helps the entire family, because we understand that it's not just us who are suffering. It's everyone around us that needs to, there are a lot of challenges, especially with PTSD. There are a lot of challenges for our wives and for our kids, and they don't have the tools to deal with it. And so we started for them as well. But going back to LA, we just we just need a breather. Every single one of the guys here in BFL just need a breath of fresh air, just to get out of here for a second and just, breathe and do something fun without having that that constant fear that every second an alarm can go off and I'll say bye to you and I'll go to the shelter. And now it's just me, but back home where you have 4 very young kids sleeping in their beds and you have a minute to rush them all into shelter in the middle of the night, it takes a toll on you and on them as well. My 4-year-old is afraid to go outside now because he keeps asking me, Dad, what if a siren goes off? Like, what do we do? And I said, well, if there's no shelter around us, we'll just lay on the ground and we'll cover our heads and we'll wait for 10 minutes. So he said, well, in that case, I don't want to go outside. Let's just stay in the house. And we are in central Israel. This is the quiet area. This is nothing compared to what the communities in the north and in the south are going through. And where it's every single minute and you have 10 seconds to run for shelter. This is no way to live. It's not.
Well, just know that we, thousands of miles away, who are about to greet you here in Los Angeles, know that I know it sounds so cliche that we are with you, but I know you have seen the love through the Jewish communities in the diaspora, knowing that we can talk like we are right now because of what you and your brothers continue to do every single day. Not what we see in the news, but what we hear from your voices and from your hearts as well. What's the expectations that you have for the families that will be hosting you? And I don't use the expectations, in a deep way, but what do you want them to get out of the experience as they meet these soldiers, young people, old people, everybody?
I think the hosting families, this has been a very old argument in BFL. Who gets more of the experience? Is it the hosting families or the soldiers? Every side claims that they're gaining more out of the delegations. But again, the connection that forms in a week between us and the families, it's hard to explain. And I sent you the YouTube movie of me and my hosting family back in Long Island, which I implore everyone to watch because it really tells the story about how close of a connection you can form in a matter of days. And you'll see at the end of this delegation, as well as you see in every delegation that we have, is that after a week, everyone is crying and pouring their heart out. We're all hugging and we're so sad to say goodbye. And it's just mind-blowing because a week before, we all sat together around the table or the yard and no one knew each other. It was very, awkward because you're staying at a home with people that you never met in your life, which is also shocking to me. Like, how many people do you know that will open their house for 2 strangers and say, well, welcome in, this is your home?
The Jewish community, that's who we know, and that's who we are.
And you see that in every single community. It's crazy. These Jewish communities all over the world, this hospitality to accept 2 strangers into your home and make them feel like you're their sons. Many times they'll kick out their kids from their own rooms just to offer you a warm bed. It's like, what is that? Who does that? It's just unreal. You go to so many places around the world and you get that love and appreciation. And especially now, in times of conflict, every year in Passover, we say, Bechol dor vador, omdim alenu lechalotenu. And it's, since the beginning.
Right? In every generation, there's somebody that comes to get us, if you wish.
In every generation, right? It's Egypt, it's Poland, it's every generation. We fight for our existence. What other people on this planet, go through the entire history with this sword above their head the entire time? Like so many different times in history that they just don't want us here. And it just brings us even closer to each other.
We'll know that when we come to Israel, we do feel that same love as the doors are open, and we hope to be there soon as well. And you will see, obviously, when you are here, not just yellow pins for the hostages, but so many. I walked down the street in Beverly Hills yesterday and I saw somebody wearing the same thing as that. And you just wave to each other and you give a thumbs up and you say the words that I have on my neck, which is Yachad Nenetzach. Together we will be victorious, maybe because we use our words here, but really because what the Brothers for Life do every single day on the battlefield, but also off and creating that family as well. Ohad, it's wonderful to have you on Rabbi on the Sidelines. I've interviewed many sports stars, but I have never interviewed a hero like you. And we look forward to all of you, Brothers for Life, coming to Los Angeles community November 17th. If you haven't signed up for your team, make sure you reach out. You can reach out to me. I'll connect you with Brad Conroy. We want the whole community there. I know you're going to be visiting different schools and different communities. Just thank you for what you do, and most importantly, for who you are. Please send that message to all of the brothers at the Brothers House for Achim L'Chaim. Ohad Poraz, Brothers for Life, and we look forward to seeing you in Los Angeles next week. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.